Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs in all of the world, and don't you forget it. Despite what their recent run of form over the last season, well, seasons may tell you. After 26 years of Sir Alex Ferguson at the helm, it was always going to be tough to move on. That moving on process was inevitably also going to involve a string of players being told they were surplus to requirements, or other stars feeling like they didn't want to play for the Reds again going forward. However, not every move is a guaranteed success, and sometimes players can soon regret leaving a team behind for pastures new. I'm Gareth, your resident WhatCulture Manchester United fan from WhatCulture Football, and here are 10 players who probably regret leaving Manchester United. Number 10, Darren Gibson. Midfielder Darren Gibson has had a bit of a mixed career since leaving Manchester United for Everton in 2012. Some could even say he made the right decision at one point. Although there was a time when he was a hot property for the Reds. The midfielder had a reputation for scoring long-range goals in his time at United. And if he'd waited a little longer, perhaps until Paul Scholes had retired for the third or fourth time, then he may have commanded a regular first-team berth, especially with central midfield becoming a problem area for the side. Instead, he transferred to Everton in 2012, with many seeing him as the ready-made replacement for Phil Neville, another former United player who was due to retire. As it went, injuries disrupted his progress at Everton, presumably making him wonder what would have been if he'd stayed at United. Gibson ended up moving to Sunderland and Wigan before finally settling with the class of '92's Salford City, a coming home of sorts. Number 9, Ravel Morrison. Ravel Morrison was viewed as a very exciting prospect when he broke through into the United first team in 2010. But since then, quite a few things have gone wrong for the player. The talented midfielder was fast, athletic, and supremely talented. He also broke through at the same time as Paul Pogba, although the two players' careers have diverged wildly since they both left United. Whilst Pogba went on to win a World Cup with France and later returned to United, Morrison has hopped around from club to club, failing to fulfill his promise wherever he goes. Now plying his trade for Middlesbrough on loan from Sheffield United, it looks like Morrison's dreams of becoming a future England legend are all but dead at the age of 27. Could things have worked out differently had he stayed within the walls of the Red Devils? Who knows? Number 8, Park Jisung. Park Jisung was well renowned throughout his early career for his boundless energy and enthusiasm and nearly endless stamina, being branded 3 Lungs Park for his workload. His time at United was definitely the highlight of his career, winning a glut of titles and being a trusted lieutenant for Sir Alex Ferguson in big games, shackling his more illustrious opponents. As a result of his commitment, he became a fan favourite during his time at the club, and while he may have lacked a certain level of technical talent, he could blunt other stars with his tackling and tracking back. But then when he left for QPR in 2012, things rapidly went downhill, as he only made a handful of appearances during an injury-hit 2-year spell with the club, which eventually resulted in his retirement in 2014. Seems like it all went to pot as soon as he left Old Trafford behind, to be honest. Number 7, Kieran Richardson. When he was initially breaking into the first team at Manchester United, Kieran Richardson was viewed as an exciting prospect, equally capable of playing in midfield or defence. However, things never really worked out for him at United and he never built up a sustained period of action in the first team, due to competition for places against players like Giggs, Scholes, Rooney and Ronaldo. Quite frankly, he had no chance up against that lot. Richardson eventually moved to Sunderland in 2007, but drifted in and out of the first team in a number of positions during his 5 years there. He went from contesting for the Premier League title with United to relegation scraps with Sunderland, before eventually turning out for Fulham, Aston Villa and Cardiff City. Number 6, Dimitar Berbatov. The languid striker was an enigma throughout his footballing career. He was much maligned for his lazy playing style, and he was equally adept at playing majestic passes and scoring brilliant goals, as he was infuriating fans with his less than obvious commitment. Somewhat typically, throughout his time at United, he frustrated and delighted in equal measure, although he always had a regular starting place. Berbatov was bought from Spurs in 2008, where he had a very successful period and scored a lot of goals, and he was initially a great success success at United. Towards the end of his time at United, however, he was left out in favour of Rooney and the more energetic Javier Hernandez, which eventually led to him leaving United for Fulham in 2012. At Fulham, he was the main man, but his scoring rate declined and he got even lazier, which seemed a bit impossible. This also pushed him out of favour amid accusations that he was inching for a move, which he eventually got 2 years later to Monaco. He never turned out for a team as big as the Reds again, which makes you wonder whether he'd have preferred to stick it out and fight for his place instead of spending his final couple of football years club hopping. Number 5. Fabio. The less successful of the Samba twins at United, Fabio's career never really took off, despite early hopes that both siblings would live up to their Wonder Kid labels. He was never a regular for Man United, although he did start for the club in the Champions League final against Barcelona in 2011, but that was an absolute massacre, so we don't want to talk about that. Fabio was known to be too rash in the tackle at times, and he got sent off on a few occasions too, which is possibly the reason for his lack of progression at United. However, things have really dropped off for Fabio since leaving the Premier League Titans behind. Stints at Cardiff City and Middlesbrough didn't lead to much success for the Premier League winner, and he now wears a Nantes kit. At 29 years old, this is probably as good as it's ever gonna get for the once lauded Wonder Kid. Number 4. Wayne Rooney. All good things must come to an end, and that much is true when talking about club legend Wayne Rooney. After breaking countless individual club records such as all-time goalscorer and most Premier League goals by a player for one club, take that Alan Shearer, Rooney eventually decided to call it quits and leave his mighty Reds behind. He returned to his boyhood club of Everton and things just weren't the same. Rooney struggled to find his groove, despite still managing to bag 10 goals for the club in 31 appearances, and eventually opted for a move stateside. He joined DC United for 2 seasons and became something of a hit in the US, but he could sense that the former England sensation didn't feel fulfilled on the other side of the pond. This eventually led to him returning to the UK and joining Derby County as a player coach. Rooney has definitely explored the footballing world since leaving the Red Devils in 2017. However, there's no questioning that his legacy has had a little bit of the shine taken off it due to his decision to fade away elsewhere. Instead of staying with United until he retired and jumping into the backroom team there a la Ryan Giggs and Michael Carrick. Number 3. Wilfried Zaha. Wilfried Zaha didn't have a stellar Manchester United career by any stretch of the imagination. But hear me out, Zaha famously didn't get on with the United boss at the time, David Moyes, who quite clearly didn't know how to get the best out of the rising star amid reports of a rift between the pair caused by Zaha apparently sleeping with the manager's daughter, which Zaha outright denied. He eventually returned to Palace and became a serious top star, courting interest from various top teams whilst dragging his own squad out of the relegation zone on numerous occasions. Had Zaha stuck it out and endured the period of being left out of the side at United, he could have eventually found form under Louis van Gaal, Mourinho, or even good old Ollie. Yep, he decided to jump ship and has been staving off the drop ever since. Number 2. Nicky Butt. A proud member of the legendary class of '92, Nicky Butt seemed destined to pitch up and stay at United for the duration of his career. However, all that changed in January 2004 when the feisty midfielder handed in a transfer request and joined Newcastle United in search of more game time. Unfortunately, it appeared that Butt's heart was never really in it at Newcastle, and despite becoming club captain for a spell, he was never able to recapture his form of the past for the Toon. He'd eventually return to United as reserve team coach, but if he was given a chance to do it all again, you'd imagine Butt would happily stay put and slowly transition into the Old Trafford backroom like so many of his former United teammates. Number 1. Ruud van Nistelrooy. The Dutch striker was really in his element at United and produced numerous great displays over the 5 years that he was there, bagging a hatful of goals, 150 in 219 appearances to be exact, which is a phenomenal scoring rate, especially after he suffered what would normally be classed as a career-ending injury. However, after falling out with Sir Alex Ferguson due to poor form and criticisms over fledgling superstar Ronaldo, he left in 2006 for Real Madrid. Good thing that Ronaldo kid never did anything, yeah? Sadly for the player, he never really recaptured the heights that he hit at Manchester United with his other clubs. At Madrid, he was in and out of the team. His scoring rate gradually declined, and he missed out on being in the Netherlands squad on a regular basis. Eventually, he wound his career down with comparative minnows, Hamburg and Malaga. And Van Nistelrooy himself admitted his behaviour had been unacceptable in his latter years at United, even ringing Ferguson to apologise, a tale he recounted in his autobiography. And frankly, Van Nistelrooy's right to have regrets. If he had stayed at United, he could have quite easily become the all-time top goalscorer at the club. And that's our list. Which other players do you think probably regret leaving Manchester United? Share your thoughts below in the comments section, and do not forget to like, share and click on that subscribe button. I've been Gareth from WhatCulture Football. Thank you very much for clicking on this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon.